everybody, I'm back in the office after a lot of travel and it's time to get back into some Lightroom. Now, during all of our photo safaris and workshops and private guided trips that we take, we spend a lot of time working on Lightroom, processing stuff from in the field, sharing ideas, tips, techniques that people can take home. And one of the brand new features in Lightroom 6, if you haven't upgraded yet, do it now. I've actually just moved to the, what's it called? Lightroom CC, the online version, where you have the cloud version. And definitely worth it, I think. Anyway, one of the brand new features that has come up, and it hit me in Svalbard, I just upgraded just before I went up there, is the stitch to panorama function. Now, I mentioned this to someone in Monopools, one of the clients last week, and played around with some phenomenal results. Now, in the past, even as a wildlife photographer, I was never too worried or too excited by shooting panoramas because that's the landscape photographer's domain. But as a part of a total experience, shooting everything that's a part of your wildlife photography experience, this is fantastic. It's easy. You don't have to go to Photoshop and stitch them and balance things. It is very, very simple. So this is not a full-on tutorial. I just want to show you how effective this can be, and maybe you can add something to your safaris, your trips that you can play with. So watch this in Lightroom. So this is a sequence of how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 images that I shot in Svalbard from the top. This was shot with, let's just check here what lens this was with. So this was on a 24-70 at 24 mils. And I was at the top of the ship on the bridge, and I wanted to get the entire scene in front of me. And what I wanted to get is, while I'm pushing the wrong buttons here, what I wanted to get is the overall view side to side. So I shot these panos. You'll see I did it in portrait orientation. I'll explain a little bit later on why, but just all the way from left to right, and those, we scan through these for you, these are the different images. So you'll see it was shot in sequence, one by one by one, and they overlap. Now this is how easy it is to create a pano in Lightroom 6. Select the first image, hold shift, select the last image in the series. Right click on any of them, menu comes up, and you drop down to photo merge and click on panorama. This opens a brand new window that sits on top. Lightroom now does its thing. These algorithms are actually quite incredible because there's exposure issues, sometimes it fixes up for you, it lines it up, it does everything for you, and you'll see the interface isn't confusing. There's not a hell of a lot of sliders that you have to worry about and fight through and things like this. So, creating panorama preview, it should pop up any second now. This is quite a simple one, I think. I didn't go too crazy with it. Boom, there it is. So, let me open this a bit bigger so you can see. So, that's what Lightroom did with my 9 images, all into one. Now, on the right-hand side, you'll see auto-select projection. You can then select between spherical, cylindrical, and perspective. And what we have, some Twitter notifications coming up. We can leave that. Are you following me on Twitter, by the way? Go check it out. Here's the link. Anyway, moving on. Auto-select projection works 90% of the time. You wouldn't have to really change through these, but what you can do is you can click on cylindrical and it'll give you that preview, different way of presenting that panorama. So it'll rebuild the preview for you and show what it would look like with that perspective, a little bit smaller. And then perspective normally throws it out weird because that's more determined and based on shooting a 360 panorama. So that one's not for us. I'm going to go with auto. Spherical is chosen, and it gives me back my image like anytime now. That. At the bottom you'll see auto crop. I click on auto crop and it just crops. You'll see there's areas around the edges here where it was merged. I will click auto crop and it crops it to that. When I now hit merge, this is pretty cool. You'll see at the top left now, Lightroom is creating this panorama, it's working on it, and it's going to stick it in with the rest of my images. I'll show you that in a second. So the reason, I'm going to just take Lightroom away while it's processing. The reason I shoot it in portrait is I could do that sequence in probably 3 landscape orientations. But think about this. If I shoot it in portrait, I've got more information, there's more pixels, and then I shoot more frames, gives me a larger file size to work with at the end, which is pretty handy. When you're shooting these things, in your mind, when you have the 2 images, try and overlap them by about 30% each time. So don't have to go 50, just 30%. Don't shoot them side by side. Lightroom needs that little bit of information to overlap, and that's how it then creates the panorama for you. Right, let's go back into Lightroom, see how it is. it's got a little bit extra to go here. Let me zoom out a bit while it's working. Still waiting. Zoom this back a touch. Now what I've done is, while this is working, I'm going to quickly show you some of the other panoramas. Oh, there it is. Just popped up. So you'll see there's all my 9 images that I have. I can now open this as a brand new panorama, and there's my final file. I can then take, so this is my 9 panorama stitched. It is pretty flawless. I can't see any issues with this. Take it to develop, and you can now work on this file. I've created a DNG file, so it's a raw file that you can play with, and even things after the fact like lens correction you can apply on top of the stitched image. It is golden. It is very, very easy to use, and something I definitely recommend you play with when you next head out into the field. I've had people now in Monopools last week shooting panos of the forest with a small elephant in it. Just gives you so much more to play with. We've had people shooting, for example, hippos on the river, and there's a whole bunch scattered out. Instead of just shooting a wide angle, which makes it look very small, you can create a much stronger, bigger image with it. So let me quickly take you back in here to Lightroom. This is, just to give you an idea of what you can do with this. These are some of, okay, back in Lightroom, these are some of the image. These are all stitched images. So I couldn't get in this image the scale and size, but with a single group shot. I wanted more. That, I think, is a 21 image portrait orientation shot, stitched image, panorama, done in Lightroom. Same thing there. This is about 15 images stitched across. This was shot with a 70 to 200 mil at 70 mil and stitched all across. Notice how, and these are all unprocessed, I haven't touched these. Notice how Lightroom dealt with the shading and the contrast tonal values throughout the image. Very, very cool. Same thing, on the back of the vehicle, 2470. If I shot this on a 14 mil, I would have had distortion at the bottom corner. Gerry at the bottom corner, this guy's name is also Gerry, would have been all warped. Doing it this way, much better result. There we go, wildlife application, for example. Buffalo herd at Swabi Swabi during our seminar recently. These things were walking past. Again, a wide angle would have given me a very different view, smaller. I can make it bigger. So, back with me here. Great way to play with different types of images and build up your portfolio with something new. It's very, very simple. Shoot them in sequences, portrait orientation, 30% overlapping. Go to Lightroom, select all of them. You can either do adjustments before or after, select them all, right click, merge to panorama, enter, and you are good to go. Maybe in future we can dig more into the processing of these things, but it's very similar to a normal raw file. But again, try it out. Upgrade to Lightroom 6 if you haven't yet. It is a phenomenal new feature. One of the ones that I really enjoy in this program. Go and play with it and shout if you have any questions. My name is Gerry. I'm from Wild Eye. I will see you guys next time.